you for attending. Zero to dashboard. We're going to go through Performance Point. So first off, my name is Mike Milligan from Pragmatic Works, and I'd like to start with the business intelligence joke. Why was the dimension imprisoned? It was a degenerate dimension. Okay. So anyway, if you were expecting Adam, I apologize. I'm filling in for him on short notice. Brian Knight came to me earlier in the week, and I just happened to have a SharePoint 2010 and Power Pivot virtual machine handy. So I've spent a bit of time configuring the various services for PerformancePoint to work, and learned a little bit more than I would have liked to about the security model. PerformancePoint isn't something you can just install on your local PC and you're on your way. It requires a server that must be actively connected to a domain, which I found out the hard way last night when I was trying to demo my presentation to my wife and couldn't get our VPN to work. So subsequently I wasn't able to display any PerformancePoint dashboards. Lucky for her. Now, I've been working with PerformancePoint ever since 2007, and I can really appreciate the improvements in the 2010 version. I think you're going to agree with me at the end of this presentation that the PerformancePoint Dashboard Designer provides a business intelligence developer a very focused yet versatile tool. It provides a fairly easy-to-use integrated development environment and framework for quickly producing informative, contextually driven BI dashboards. So this is a little bit about me here. You can, after the presentation, you can visit my blog. So we do have a lot to cover today, so I'm going to jump right in. So, let's see, I already spoke about this. So our agenda for today. I'd like to demonstrate the use of the analytic grid and the analytic chart and set those up so they're both controlled on a dashboard with a single filter object. And once we get that set up, I'll go through a short demonstration of the user experience while browsing the data and kind of get you familiar with some of the things that Microsoft has provided with the framework that as a developer we don't really even have to worry about. They're kind of just built into the tool. Then I'd like to go through the process of how to create KPIs and using them in a scorecard with the KPI details report object. And also using that scorecard as contextual filters for another object. So as the user clicks on a KPI, an object below it, say a chart or a graph, changes depending on what you're clicking on in the KPI scorecard. If you don't know what a KPI is, don't worry, I'll cover that. Finally, I'd like to show how to integrate an Excel spreadsheet into your dashboard or perhaps a reporting services report. And I'd also like to introduce a couple of the new features they added recently with Service Pack 1 of PerformancePoint, the Cascading and Apply filters. Here are some links that I'll share. I'll put this up again at the end of the presentation, but this SP1 filters link goes into more detail about the new features that were added with Service Pack 1. There's a time and intelligence formula quick reference at this link. And then a description of what PerformancePoint is straight from Microsoft. And it talks about some of the new features in 2010 as well. And then we have a PerformancePoint live demo where you can actually go out on the web and play with a PerformancePoint dashboard that another gentleman has so kindly set up for us. And then finally, I'd like to share the bidn.com SharePoint forum, and that's where you can go to ask questions about PerformancePoint or SharePoint, and they're usually pretty good and helpful there about responding in a timely fashion. I kind of realized that using the tiny URL was a little bit of overkill since it's actually more characters than just typing bidn.com. So anyway, let's get started. So the first thing you want to do when you're creating your PerformancePoint dashboard is think about what question it is that we're trying to answer. So for the purposes of this demonstration, We're going to imagine that we are an analytics worker for the Contoso retail company. And our CEO has asked us to provide him with a view of the company dashboard so that he can see how well we're performing, how the sales are coming along compared to the quotas. So the first thing you want to do is you want to create a BI Center site collection. Now I've already done that here, but I still want to demonstrate how to do it without actually making everybody wait while PerformancePoint does its work. So from the central administration page, I clicked on Create Site Collection, and then here I'll put in my title, a description, and the URL. And then here under Enterprise, under the Enterprise tab, I selected the Business Intelligence Center. I put in my name and hit OK. And then that'll spin for a while, and you'll eventually get this. And this is a blank site collection using the Business Intelligence Center template. So the next thing I recommend is that we create a PerformancePoint content list for your project. And this kind of helps to keep things organized. And organization is a good thing. So I'm going to click on All Site Content. And create. And create. And I'm going to select the list type, the PerformancePoint content list. And we'll call this list 0 to dashboard items. Okay, now we'll click Add New Item. Now a little bit about my setup here. I've actually got the PerformancePoint server running in the background in a virtual machine. So I'm actually simulating a real user experience where my host machine is the client and the server, of course, serves up the content. Okay, so now we have the dashboard designer fully loaded, and the first thing we need to do is create a new data source. So I right-click on Data Connections and select New Data Source. And we're going to be connecting to Analysis Services for this demonstration, but you could connect to any of these as well. Excel, import from an Excel workbook. You can use a SharePoint list or a SQL Server table. So we'll just do Analysis Services. And this is my local machine. Paste my server name into there, select the database drop-down, and I'll select the Contoso Retail Analysis Services database, and we're interested in the sales cube. And it's always a good idea to test your data source. Connection is successful. So here under Properties, I want to change the name to Contoso Retail Sales Cube, and here I'll go ahead and put it in a display folder for 0 to dashboard, which is our project name. Now we select the Time tab. Now what the Time tab is for is to help drive your time intelligence formulas. So a little bit about what time intelligence formulas are. If I want to look at month to date for a particular value like sales, that's pretty straightforward. But what if I want to look at month to date last year? That's where your time intelligence formulas can help create, help make that easier for the BI developer. So the first step to getting this all set up is telling your dashboard what your time dimension is. So in this case, I'm going to actually pick a particular hierarchy within my date dimension called date, calendar, year, quarter, month, date. And then the next step is to select a reference member. And this is the date in which the data starts for this particular cube. And I found that out by creating a simple slice in Management Studio where I dragged the calendar, year, quarter, date hierarchy over and put it next to the sales amount. And I can see our data begins in year 2007 and ends in year 2009. So I'm going to select January 1st, 2007. And then I'm going to select my hierarchy level, and this is the lowest level of granularity in my date dimension, and it's the day. Now the reference date. Now, month to date last year from today would be, August 18th, 2010. Well, we don't have data for 2010. So as a developer, I'm going to map this date to 1/1/2009. The next step is to set my time member associations, and it's very simple. I just select calendar year and map it to year, calendar quarter and map it to quarter, calendar month and map it to, guess what, month, and date to day. That's it. Now I'm going to click Save All up here, and now it's asking me where I'd like to store my local copy of my workspace. So I'm going to go ahead and just put it in my documents library, and we'll call this my Zero to Dashboard workspace. Now this also saves the data connection on the server. Okay, so our next step is to create our analytic grid and chart that we're going to use for our first dashboard. So I'm going to right-click on my Zero to Dashboard items and select New, Report, and we're going to do our chart first. Select my data source. You can mix different data sources in the same dashboard, which is good to know. Okay, now I'm going to open up my dimensions and take my sales territory hierarchy and drag it to my bottom axis. Now I only want to select Asia, Europe, and North America. Next, I'm going to add the date, calendar, year, quarter, month, date hierarchy to the background. And what that means in the background is basically you don't see it, but it will become obvious why it's there later in just a few minutes. So now what measures do we want to look at? I want to look at the sales amount and the sales quota amount. Oh my goodness. It looks like the sales amounts for all time are significantly lower than their quotas. So it seems to be there seems to be some unrealistic expectations going on here at Contoso. So now one thing I want to demonstrate is the Query tab. And this is the actual MDX behind what we just created in our chart. Now on the Properties tab, I'm going to name this Sales versus Quotas by Territory. And here in the Display folder, I'm going to call this Charts. And this will help organize my project within my Zero to Dashboard Items folder. Okay, so that's it for our first chart. Really easy stuff. Now I'm going to right-click on my Zero to Dashboard Items and select New, Report. And this time we're going to create an analytic grid. Select my data source again. And we're going to name this one Sales versus Quotas by Territory. And while I'm naming it, I might as well go ahead and set the display folder. and we'll call this one data. And I'm going to put on any grids or reports in the data folder. Back to the design tab. I'm going to add the product hierarchy to my rows. And I'm going to select the top level categories. So let's say OK. Next, I'm going to add the sales territory hierarchy to the columns. And select my 3 territories. Next, I'm going to add sales amount and sales quota to the columns. And I'm going to add my calendar hierarchy in the background. Now, notice we've got an empty row here. If I expand audio, for instance, I have some empty rows here also. That's not too good. So to get rid of that, I can right-click and say Filter, Filter Empty Rows. And just to be on the safe side, let's go ahead and filter Empty Columns. And again, let's look at the Queries tab. And our properties are all set, so we're good to go. Now all we have left to do is create a filter and then our dashboard itself. So I right-click on my folder, select New Filter, and we're going to select the member selection filter type and say OK. Select my data source, select my dimension. And in here we're going to select the date, calendar, year, quarter, month, day. I'm going to select my members. And I want 2007 through 2009. And I want to auto-select members, select all descendants. And I'll hit OK. And we'll hit Next. And these are the different display methods. A list is just a simple drop-down list, or a tree view, which you can only select one item at a time, or a multi-select tree. So we could actually select different items at the same time. And I'll show you that when we get to the demonstration. Okay, so let's go to the properties of the filter, and we're going to name this our calendar filter. And we're going to put all of our filters in a folder called, you guessed it, filters. Okay, now we're ready to create our first dashboard. I right-click on my folder, select New, Dashboard, and we're going to do the header 2 columns template. And we're going to name this dashboard our Sales Analysis Dashboard. And while I'm naming it, I might as well set the display folder, and we're going to put all of our dashboards into a folder called Dashboards. Okay. So our next step is to drag our calendar filter to the header, conveniently under a folder called Filters. And here's a new feature with Service Pack 1. This is the Apply Filters button. And this allows the user to save their selections as their default filters. So every time they open the dashboard, it will automatically be set at what they want it to be set at. Next, I'm going to drag the grid we created to the left column. Then I'll drag I dragged the chart to the left column. That's okay. We'll do a little backwards. We'll put the data on the right. No big deal there. Now let's change the name of this page to Sales versus Quotas. A dashboard can have multiple pages. Right now we're just working on the first page. Okay. The next thing I need to do is link my filters with my objects. And this, you might want to pay attention. This isn't very intuitive. But notice if I go over to my calendar filter, it kind of drops down and I get some selections here that disappear if I move my mouse away. So here I select the member unique name, click my mouse and hold it down, and then drag it over here where it says drop fields to create connections, and this little window comes up, and I'm going to accept the default, but I just kind of wanted to show you what's in this box, and say OK. Now I'll do the same thing to connect it to the other object, and click OK again. Now I can save everything. And one way to deploy a dashboard is to click this circle here and then select deploy. And for the master page, I've selected night and day, and I think it's kind of pretty. We'll hit OK. And it's deploying to our SharePoint site. Okay, so aside from having the wrong company name, it doesn't look too bad. So here is our filter. I can click this little drop down here, and you can see how we've got our hierarchy. I could select quarter 1 and quarter 2 of year 2008, and it's going to aggregate those two together. Let's uncheck 2007 and select that, and I could have that always be my defaults by checking this and clicking Apply Filters. And the one filter is controlling both the bar chart and the grid. And here's some neat things about, navigating within this is that, you can drill down into the different product categories, computers, laptops. With the bar chart, I can click on North America and look at United States and Canada, look at all the different states. Another really neat thing you can do here is I can right-click on any metric over here in the grid and say, I want to browse this data using the decomposition tree. And this breaks out the audio component, which is what I did the right-click on, into MP3 and recording pen and Bluetooth headphones. So I can click the plus here, and it'll break down the MP3 product categories, or I can click here and it'll give me some information about this particular category, that its sales make up almost 50% of the audio category, and it's ranked 1 of 3 of the different categories in the audio category. Now let's say I want to see which employee is selling all these MP3s. I can expand it to the employee and select the last name, and it's Gonzalez. Gonzalez is doing a fantastic job. Let's see what store he's selling all of these MP3 players out of. And it's the Contoso Asia online store and the Contoso Asia reseller. Really neat stuff here. So another way you can look at the data from this grid is we can right-click on it, and we can actually change the measures. What if we don't want to look at sales amount and sales quota amount anymore? Let's look at sales. Let's look at the sales discount amount with the sales return amount and the sales amount. So we can see here that Asia had $122,000 in sales discounts, $52,000 in returns, and their sales were about $4 million. Neat stuff there. But, that might make some people nervous, and one of the clients I was recently at actually really didn't like that feature. So there is a little-known way to disable that, and if you go to your central administration site and click on Manage Service Applications, find it. And I'll select PerformancePoint Manage, PerformancePoint Service App, and then Manage, and PerformancePoint Service Application Settings. And we scroll down here, there's a setting that controls the maximum number of measures to retrieve in the dashboard select measure control. Let's set that to 0. Click OK. And go back to our dashboard. And we'll refresh this page. And now when I right-click and select measures, oh, there's nothing to select. Okay, so there's a little trick there. So a couple other things you can do with this right-click functionality. I can sort it from largest to smallest. I can filter it. Show me only the top 10 by Asia sales amount. There we go. I can actually change the report type. I can change this grid into, I don't know, a line chart. And there's a tabular layout. Anyway, you can play around with this, and there's a lot of neat things you can do in there. So, need to move on. So next we're going to create our page 2 of our dashboard, and we're going to go through how to create some KPIs. So what's a KPI? A KPI is short for Key Performance Indicator. So when a BI analyst is tasked with creating a dashboard for a CEO, one of the first questions he needs to ask is, what kind of data or what kind of metrics will tell you about the health of the company? What are the values that drive your business? So, we've been tasked with comparing, the sales amount to their quotas. And as we can see, the quotas are really high, and the sales they don't compare very well. So we're going to create some key performance indicators based on sales and comparing them to what they were during the same period last year. So let's create some KPIs. I right-click on my folder and say New KPI. We're going to use the blank KPI template. And we're going to call this KPI the sales amount KPI. And while I'm at it, I'm going to set the display folder to KPIs. And then here on the editor, I see actual and target. The number format, I'm going to change this to currency. And the data mapping, I'm going to change it to map to our sales amount. Simple as that. Our target is going to be compared to the actual. Number formats, also currency. And this is going to map to our sales quota amount. And then here you can set the thresholds of what's going to drive these indicators. So if it's yellow, you're within 50% of your target. Red, it's 50% or less. You can adjust these by just dragging on them, or go over here and click on the numbers. There's different indicators you can use, different options on how it's going to work. The banding method, whether increasing is better, decreasing is better. And then we have all these different types of indicators. My favorite's the little speedometer. We've got flags, we've got smiley faces, stoplights, thermometers, looks like batteries. So all sorts of neat options. We'll just select that one for now. Click finished. Okay, so now let's create some more realistic KPIs. We're going to create a new actual KPI called month to date last year. And number format is currency. And the data mapping is, again, sales amount. But we're going to apply a time intelligence filter to this one. And here I'm going to say year minus 1. And this is a special formula syntax, which, I'll provide the link at the end of the demonstration, where you can get a quick reference of different time calculations you might need. So basically what I'm saying here is take the year and subtract 1 and go from the first month, the first day, all the way to the current, or last year's same current month and current day. So today is August 18th, 2011, so it would be August 18th, 2010. If I click preview, you can actually see the MDX behind that. Hit OK, OK again, and let's make another actual called year-to-date last year. Again, currency format. And again, we're going to have sales amount drive this, but a different time intelligence formula. This is going to be year minus 1. First month, first day to year minus 1 month day. And I think I might have put the wrong formula in this one. No, I didn't. It is month, first day, not first month. Okay, good. So next I need to create a new target, and this is going to be month to date. And I'm going to compare this to month to date last year, currency format. Select my data source. Again, it's driven by sales amount. And a different time intelligence formula. It's going to be year, month, first day to year, month, day. Okay. And another new target for year to date. And it's going to compare to year to date last year, currency format, and data source. You'll never believe what it maps to. And the time intelligence formula is going to be year, first month, first day to year, month, day. I always click preview just to make sure I didn't have any typos. And we click OK. Okay, so now we'll save all. And we'll create a new scorecard. New scorecard. We're going to, here we select the standard category and the blank scorecard. Click OK. And we're going to call this scorecard current sales to last year. And let's go ahead and put it in its own folder called scorecards. Now, we're going to open up our KPIs folder and drag sales amount here. Now, I'm actually going to delete all but the last two. And it doesn't let you do it anyway, but one at a time, unfortunately. Now I'm going to right-click the month to date and select metric settings, and I'm going to change this to month to date versus month to date last year. And I'm going to show this actual with the target. Click OK. And we'll do the same for year to date. Year to date versus year to date last year. And OK. Okay. Next, we're going to take our dimension, our sales territory hierarchy, and drag it over here. Notice how I can put it to the left, to the right, up, or down. See that blue line? I'm going to put it to the left here and select just the parts I'm interested in. Now, nothing's happening, right? So that's a little quirky. So if you click Edit here, you can click Update there. Now I'll actually see some values. So everything's looking pretty good there. I'm happy with it. Let's save all. And now, wouldn't it be neat? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. The next thing I want to do is create a KPI details report. This is new just to 2010. And basically, it's just going to give us information about our individual KPIs as we select them. I'm going to just select, keep the defaults. We'll name this KPI details. and I'm just going to put it in the KPIs folder. There, couldn't be any more simple than that. So now, wouldn't it be nice if as the user selects different KPIs, we have a chart below it that changes appropriately? So let's go to New Report and do Analytic Chart. Select my data source. And I'm going to add Sales Territory Hierarchy to the background. And products to the series. And I'm going to select the major product categories, except for that no member. And year to the top of the bottom axis. I'm going to select the years 2008 to 2009. And I'm going to go ahead and drag calendar quarter also to the bottom. And let's change this report type to a line chart. Pretty neat stuff. Okay, so let's name this. Oh, I don't know, the line. Line sales by product, territory, and time. And the display folder will be charts. Next, let's create a new dashboard page to consume these objects. Oops, actually, let's add it to our existing dashboard. We'll create a new page. So I click the sales analysis. I'm going to click new page there. And we're going to use the 2-row template this time. Click OK. I'm going to drag my current sales to last year's scorecard to the header. And drag my KPI details to the left of that. Now I'm going to drag my line chart to the bottom row. Now, I'll drag my scorecard member unique name not sure if I'm not seeing it. Let's see here. There it is. It was at the bottom. I had to hide my taskbar to see it. And I'm going to drag that to my line chart. And click OK. Oops. Okay, and drag my cell context, which is here, to my KPI details. And click OK. Okay. So now another way to deploy our dashboard is to right-click over here and say Deploy to SharePoint. And now we have a new page. I forgot to name it. Oh, that's not right. Bear with me 1 second here. If I save all and then deploy, let's try this again. Very strange. Okay, no worries. We're just going to go ahead and repeat that, but do a new dashboard. I'm not sure why it's giving me grief there. We'll drag our scorecard to the left. Our KPI details to the right of that. And our line chart below that. The member unique name goes to our line chart. And the cell context goes to our KPI details. Save all and deploy to SharePoint. Let's try a different template here. There we go. That's a little better. Okay, so let me shrink my screen here a little bit. Now, notice if I click on a KPI, I get some details about that KPI. And also, as I click on a KPI, our chart changes. Neat stuff. I can expand North America. Let's look at just the United States. Anyhow, that's a little bit on KPIs. So next, we're going to go through one of the new features that come with Service Pack 1 of PerformancePoint. Let me just put this dashboard in the right folder, give it a proper name. And this is the new feature I'd like to show is called Cascading Filters. So what Cascading Filters do is let's say you have a filter called Product and another filter called Product Subcategory. So if you select Product and select Computers, then it will automatically populate your Product Subcategory filter with only values that pertain to the parent category that you selected in the previous filter. This is a feature that's been around in reporting services for years, and they finally got it working, I guess, in PerformancePoint. So to create our cascading filter, we right-click on our project folder and say New Filter. We're going to do the member selection, select our data source, and our filter dimension is going to be Product Category Name. Click OK. Select Members. I'm going to right-click on this and auto-select Children. Click OK. Now here is the filter measure. Select the measure used to determine what values to display when this filter is driven by another filter. So we're using sales amount, so I think that'd be a good one to choose. Click Next, and for this one, let's just do a simple list and finish. And we'll call this our Products filter. Okay, and let's put it in the Filters folder. Next, we want to create a new filter for our subcategory. And this will be product.product subcategory name. And again, we will select the children. And again, our default measure is our sales amount. And we'll do a list again. Okay. And we'll call this one our product subcategory. And this one, I kind of wish I'd named it product category. There, that's better. Okay, so now we need to create a grid to consume those filters. So I'm going to go to New, Report, Analytic Grid, OK, select my data source, Finish. And I'm going to open up my products and select my product name and drag it to the rows. Next, I'll drag my calendar hierarchy to the columns, but I only want these years. Drag my sales amount to the background, but also my product category and product subcategory. Okay, and we will name this product details by time. And this is a grid, so I'm going to put it in my data folder. And now we need to create a dashboard page, or a new dashboard. I'm not sure why the page wasn't working. No. New dashboard. We'll do the 2 rows again. And we will open up our filter and drag product category to the header row and product subcategory to the right of that. And our product details to the bottom row. Now I will drag the member unique name from the product category to the product subcategory. And click OK. And the product subcategory, I will drag the member unique name to our product details report. And click OK. And we'll call this page Cascading Filter example. And we'll put it in our dashboards folder. Oops, let's call it Cascading Filters Dashboard. Let's save all, right click, and deploy to SharePoint. Okay, so as I select computers, my subcategory loads up only with things that pertain to the product category of computers. Projectors and screen, my grid changes appropriately. Neat stuff, huh? Okay, so next on my list is to show you how to combine an Excel services spreadsheet and an SSRS report. So I'm going to right click and say New Report. And we're going to use Excel services. And now it wants to know my SharePoint site, which I have handy right here. And now it's going to go to that site and load up my document libraries, select the right folder. Now I'm going to select my Contoso Slicer example. And I don't think I need an item for this. Properties, we'll call Excel, example, and display folder, we'll put it under data, and that's that. Next, our reporting services report. And our server mode is running in SharePoint integrated mode. And again, I've got some handy URLs. This is the URL to my report manager for a report server. And then I've got my URL for the actual report I want to include. And I want it to show parameters. Well, right now it's validating that report, making sure it exists. Oh, wonderful. I believe it's just taking a second. We will hope it's not crashed. Yay, it's coming. There we go. Now I'll check show parameters, Let's name it SSRS and put this in the data folder. Yes, I did just say data. And we'll do a new dashboard. And we'll just do the 2 rows again. And under reports, I've got my Excel example and my SSRS example. And put it in the dashboards folder. And right click and deploy to SharePoint. Okay, so Excel's loaded. I'm afraid to jinx it by clicking on anything, but well, I like to live risky. Looks like Excel seems to be working. Here, let's open this up. It won't let me open in a new window. Let me go ahead and show the reporting services one first. So again, this is using the cascading filters for reporting services, whereas when I select audio, it only loads the subcategories for audio. View report. And again, you can expand on these different things where you see the plus signs. Let's open up the Excel example into its own window because it's got some neat features here where I can actually select, these are called slicers. I can select multiple things here, and notice as I select these things, it's changing both my grid and my chart. So anyway, it's neat stuff. You get some other features here. We don't have a whole lot of time left, but basically you can export the data, when you're in reporting services to PDF or, a number of other things. So anyhow, these are the links that I mentioned earlier. Rachel, do we have time for a few questions?
Sure, we have time for a couple questions. We have one from Mark. Do the PPS dashboard filters work with SSRS and Excel reports, or just PPS analytic reports and scorecards?
Yes, there is a way to use the PerformancePoint dashboard filters so that it passes their selections on to reporting services. And that's why when I connected the reporting services report, there was a little checkbox there that I had to check if I actually wanted to show the parameter selections. So, this in the context of this short demo, I didn't go into that feature, but you certainly could get it so that you could use the PerformancePoint filters instead of using the reporting services filters.
Okay, great. Jada would like to know, how did you add the apply filter option to the zone?
All I did was drag it over there. Simple as that. Let me bring that dashboard up. I think that was our first one. No. I thought it was. Okay, I was on the wrong page. Yeah, I mean, I didn't have to configure anything. All I did was drag it over there. There's really not much to configure, so I'll go ahead and get rid of it and just re-add it so you can see how I drag it over to the header and off a little bit to the left, and there it is. That's all there is to it.
Oh, very simple. I think I could do that, actually. Here's another question. How do you control the size of each web part on the dashboard to avoid cutoffs?
Good question. So PerformancePoint is rapid application development. You're not going to be doing a lot in the dashboard, in the PerformancePoint dashboard designer to kind of change the way things look. once you've got your dashboard with all the data elements that you need, and you're fairly confident you're not going to need to add anything to it or change any of those elements, then you would actually use the SharePoint dashboard designer to resize things or add different objects. For instance, a CEO might have on his dashboard a chart and a grid that has some KPIs or some data, but he also might just want to have his appointment list or his contact list, and those are all items within SharePoint. So those can be combined with the BI elements of PerformancePoint with other items, stock prices, whatever. So you would use the SharePoint designer to to make your layout and your dashboard look, I guess, more polished and put the icing on the cake. Good question.
Okay, good. We have another question. Can we have one PPS filter pass value to all tabs in a workbook which contains pivot tables? That's a complicated question, I think.
I'm going to be honest, I don't know, but I don't think so. I tell you what, I'll look into that, and if I find out otherwise, I will post something on the bidn.com SharePoint forum. I'll also post some of the slides, and also I have a document where I kind of cheated and walked through all the clicks as I went through this, so I didn't kind of go outside of my script and didn't do something a little bit differently. So I'll put that up there too. So anyway, if you find out differently, please post something on the SharePoint forum, and I'll do some research, and if I find out otherwise, I'll do it. So likewise.
Yeah, that was a really good question. Okay, guys, unfortunately we only have time for one more question, so it is from Jeff. Can you define a template with your favorite colors, etc.?
Unfortunately, no. The colors Microsoft chose for, the bar charts, they did a lot of market research and decided, I guess, in their infinite wisdom, that these were the most appealing and pleasing colors for the majority of the people. So those are kind of set in stone. Now that being said, you do have some options with SharePoint. On the SharePoint side, I think it takes advantage of cascading style sheets and different fonts and different background colors. But as far as the actual colors of the bars and the charts and that kind of thing, you're kind of stuck with what the Microsoft Research Group decided was best.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mike. That was a great presentation. I actually learned quite a bit, and it has been recorded, everyone. So if you missed any part of it, please do check back at our website by tomorrow, and it should be posted under our past webinars. And thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you.